My name is Abby and I work in the Academy as a marketing recruitment specialist. This week is National Apprenticeship Week and we are very fortunate to be joined by Murray, Dylan, Mariana and Gavin to give you a greater insight into our live level 3 apprenticeship opportunities that we have in manufacturing, supply chain and engineering. So I've introduced myself, so just quickly, do you want to introduce yourself and your current role?
Yeah, I'm happy to start. So hi, my name is Murray Graham and I work within operations for Nestlé. Been with the business a long time, over 30 years. And in the last 5 years, my role has been bringing talent into the organisation, specifically technical and production, to help and support us with our succession planning pipeline. That includes manufacturing apprentices, which is an important part of our recruitment drive every year.
Hi, so I'll go next. My name's Gavin Sims. I'm the engineering manager for Cereal Partners. So we're a joint venture between Nestlé and General Mills. I head up the Staverton plant in a place called Staverton near Trowbridge, where we make brand names such as Shreddies, shredded wheat, and mini honey nut wheat. I look after about 50 engineers. We've got about we have got 4 apprentices on this site here, and I'm very passionate about the apprenticeship scheme because I started off as an apprentice over 30 years ago in the car industry, and now I'm heading up this department with a master's degree. So I'm really passionate about it.
Perfect, thank you.
I'll go next. So I'm Mariana Campanaro. I currently work as a customer-based implant, or CBC as Nestlé call them, for Tesco's. So I look after everything from range changes to promotions to activities within the customer that we want to kind of drive and execute. In a past life, I was also an apprentice, one of the commercial apprentices actually. So I think there's a really strong theme of a lot of people have been on that journey and are really passionate about it, and then want to help new recruits come into the business. So currently, I am the supply chain apprenticeship champion, along with Dylan, who you'll meet in a minute. But essentially, we are supporting the recruitment of talent within the supply chain function.
Perfect.
Thanks, Mariana. So my name's Dylan Hancocks. I work in procurement, so I support the waters division, and that includes ensuring supply of our raw and packaging materials, making cost improvement projects, managing supplier relationships, and sort of all things to do with those packaging materials and suppliers for waters. I joined the business about 4.5 years ago on the supply chain apprenticeship and had a number of roles within supply chain, so factory planning, strategic buying, and logistics and export, and I work alongside Mariana now as the supply chain apprenticeship champion.
Perfect, that's great, thank you. So if you do have any questions at the call, please pop them in the chat and we'll come to them at the end. I have absolutely no doubt that this will be an incredibly informative session. It will help you discover what employers are looking for when they look for apprentices, their expectations, that relationship, and also finding one that is right for you and that piques your interest as well. So with that being said, I'm going to jump on mute and come off camera, but I'm going to hand straight over to Murray to talk about the world of manufacturing.
Thank you very much, Abby. So what do you think about when we talk about manufacturing apprenticeships? And it's probably not what you're thinking, actually, because we're not bringing people into the organisation to stand on a production line, right, and move Kit Kats or Shreddies or Felix pet foods or Buxted water from one pallet to another. We're very proud of the apprenticeships that we've built in Nestlé over the last few years, and the manufacturing one is certainly no exception. So typically when you join the business as a manufacturing apprentice, you're probably going to end up in 1 or 2 roles at the end of your apprenticeship. The first of those roles is technical operator. So a technical operator is an operator who's typically working a shift pattern, but rather than just running the machine, They are responsible to help and support with the maintenance of that machine. They're doing all of the changeovers, they're doing all of the machine setting, they're problem solving on a day-to-day basis. They're perhaps doing some offline projects to improve what we call asset intensity, which is productivity, or looking at reducing quality failures or improving health and safety. So the role is much, much more than just machine minding. The other role that you could go into from the back end of the apprenticeship is more of a leadership role. So lots of our apprenticeships come off of the scheme and go into what we call line leader roles. These typically are cell leaders. And again, you might be running a piece of equipment, but you might have responsibility to organise packaging materials coming in. You might have responsibility to take any escalations from the previous 24 hours to what we call our operational review meetings. But they're really exciting roles, and they're roles that you can really develop over a period of time that can take you down a multitude of different paths. Now, all four of us on this call will probably say something very similar. And as I said at the beginning, when I was doing my introduction, I've been with Nestlé for 30 years, and that's not uncommon. We have people that have been in Nestlé for a long, long time. And it's also not uncommon to find that people have had really diverse careers within Nestlé. So you might join the business in this coming year as a manufacturing apprentice. But if you come out of the scheme and you come out into a technical operator role and you really like the engineering side of the technical operator role, then you can have conversations with your line manager. We were really a big supporter of further development. This may be the first of many apprenticeships that you take during a career with Nestlé, and we'd be more than happy to talk about upskilling you into a different area. We've got graduates and apprentices that join the business in one function, and after 4 or 5 years or after 10 years, they may have worked in 3 or 4 functions. And that's the benefit in joining a large organisation like Nestlé. Just finally, really, what I wanted to say to you is that you're also very well supported, whichever scheme that you're going to apply to join with Nestlé. We really, truly believe that we need to give you the best level of support all the way through your apprenticeship journey. Interestingly enough, that support doesn't stop when you go into your first full-time role. Nestlé has some great mentoring and coaching programs which support people as they go into their early careers, because we do believe as an organisation that we don't want you just to reach that first milestone and go into a permanent role in a number of years' time when you come off the apprenticeship. We want to keep continuing to stretch you, continuing to push you, continue to challenge you, so you reach your optimum level in terms of whichever career you decide to take. So you're well supported, both from inside the function and outside of the function, and you will definitely not have a boring life as a Nestlé apprenticeship across any of the functions. So as Abby said earlier on, pop your questions into the chat. We're more than happy to answer any questions, and we look forward to seeing your application. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Murray. I think it's moving over to us in the supply chain apprenticeship kind of team. So I'll start with, what is an ideal kind of candidate for the supply chain function, but I thought the best way to do that is actually pop up our newsletter, and this will give anyone who's potentially looking at the supply chain apprenticeship scheme a flavour of what we're looking for, what is supply chain, and then also some really useful case studies, because I know when I was looking for apprenticeships and a lot of kind of buzzwords pop up with like marketing and sales and supply chain, is actually getting to the grips of what that actually means in reality and what is the day in a life as an apprentice. So I've popped that up on screen now, but you can see there's quite a lot of information here. You've got Joe, who's one of our current apprentices, what he's worked on throughout his 3 years on the scheme, and the similar for Eleanor, who just joined us last year as well. So there's plenty of you to read and have a look at. We also have a podcast, which is really useful. So if that's more to your kind of liking of understanding new career opportunities, we also have a podcast there for you to listen to, and you can hear some real life experiences of the apprentices, as well as myself and Dylan as champions as well. So I thought we'd start with that. In terms of what is supply chain, it's very similar, a kind of theme. There's a lot of misconceptions with what supply chain is around, just moving boxes around warehouses, and, it's not very glamorous part of the business world, but I can firmly tell you that that is not true. Coming from a commercial apprenticeship scheme and having chosen supply chain as my specialist kind of area and where I wanted to develop my career further on, I can tell you it's very, very exciting. And there's a lot of things in the news at the moment that are directly impacting like Dylan and I's roles, everything from like the national haulier crisis to Brexit to energy costs. All of those kind of things are impacting our day-to-day roles, and it's actually a lot of insight we're using when we're kind of working with our customers and also consumers and things like that. So supply chain is a very fast-paced environment. There's a lot of aspects to it, and again, as Murray said, there's a lot of strands within your career. You can start 1 year in logistics, the next year you can go to customer facing, and the year after that, procurement. So there's a huge amount of kind of broadening experiences within this function. Dylan, I don't know if you wanted to add anything onto there, because otherwise I'll just keep talking.
You're talking, absolutely smashing it, Mariana. Go for it.
Yeah, so it's a really, really exciting place to work. And then I'll just echo what Murray's saying around, support within the function. So you've got Dylan and myself that are champions. So we're really be kind of hands-on mentoring and coaching experience for the first 3 years while you're on scheme, because obviously you'll have to balance, a full-time role as well as actually completing the elements of your apprenticeship, so the studying aspects. But then we also have great set of line managers. You'll have informal coaches within your team, so that they'll teach you the role, they'll shadow you as you come on board in Nestlé. And also on the supply chain apprenticeship scheme, we have a buddy system. So where we pair you up with someone in the year above who's doing the apprenticeship 1 year ahead of you, so that you can really have some kind of experience and some advice from someone who's gone through the assessments, who's gone through, going to university part-time and things like that. So we have a huge amount of support out there, and that just doesn't end at the end of the scheme either. That can carry on for as long as you like, and throughout your career, really. So Nestlé is very supportive in that way, and I think every scheme really encourages that. That was really the apprenticeship in a nutshell. Dylan, I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to add, considering you've been there and you've done it type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just on that bit around support, we have at the moment 10 apprentices within the supply chain, and also sort of a handful of graduates on supply chain schemes as well. And it's a really sort of, people kind of have a good community within the supply chain. So all those apprenticeships will connect, share learnings, have sort of team socials, and sort of the graduates as well will get involved. There's no kind of divide between those. So it's kind of, a really good balance to have there. To mirror on sort of what Murray was saying earlier in terms of professional development after you finish the scheme. So I finished the scheme about 1.5 years ago now, but I'm also halfway through between becoming M6 qualified. So that's the Chartered Institution of Procurement and Supply, to become a procurement professional. So the company is supporting me through that even after I've sort of finished on the scheme. So you can do that while in your permanent full-time role as well. And it is, as Mariana says, the areas you get involved in supply chain are so diverse. You could be looking at exports one day and working with shipping lines, and then the next day you could be sort of working with the retailers that we have as customers. So, you know, really supporting that relationship all the way up to sort of the beginning of the chain where you're procuring raw materials, looking at coffees, you know, cocoa and sort of ingredients like that. So it's really diverse to what you can be getting into.
Yeah, and I'd probably add from that, Dylan, kind of the skills we're looking for is someone that wants to learn and is really curious and wants to understand the business environment that they're working within, and, you know, doesn't sort of settle for the status quo. I think we're really big advocates of people coming in, continuous improvement and things like that, which I'm sure is a theme between engineering and manufacturing and things like that. So, you know, we want people that can adapt to change as well, because we've got 3 rotations on our supply chain apprenticeship scheme, so there's 3 different opportunities to learn and develop. So I think a combination of curiosity and adaptability is really key for this scheme. So if those things are sort of calling out to you, then definitely look to apply.
I think that's a really good point, actually, that what we're not expecting people to apply for an apprenticeship scheme and have 5, 6, 7 years experience in the business. We do get people that apply for apprenticeship schemes that have been in industry before, but we just want you to come to the assessment centre. We want to be really passionate, really switched on, really engaged, and then all of those behaviours really come through really clearly when we're doing the assessment centres. And one more thing which I just thought about when Mariana was talking, some of you that are on the call or listening to this recording may be trying to weigh up the pros and cons between doing an apprenticeship or going down the graduate route. We look forward to recruiting both in Nestlé, but I was on another event last week, and one of the benefits of an apprenticeship is that you're earning whilst you're building those skills over a 2.5, 3, 4 year period, whichever duration of the scheme you're looking to go into. You're not building up huge student loans in the background, which I know can be a weight around your neck for a number of years to come. But also, if you think about it, once you've completed your apprenticeship and you're going into the workplace in your first full-time role, you'll have a number of years of experience, right? And that will really, really push your career ahead. Sorry about that. That'll push your career ahead and give you a bit of an advantage in terms of recruitment. So yes, I think there is pros and cons for both, but with an apprenticeship, I think you can really springboard your career. Sorry about that disruption.
Great. I think that's it from us. So Gavin, I think it's over to you.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, what Mary's saying is really relevant, because I did the same thing. I left school at 16 and I was doing an apprenticeship, and I went to college and I was getting paid, and then did the degree later. So you can do it either way. But for me, I learned all the hands-on stuff first in engineering, and then did a HNC, then a bachelor's and a master's degree. So you can do it either way. But every company supported me and paid for my college, and yeah, I never had any student loans, and I still managed to get a very expensive degree. But so what do we do in engineering? So engineering in manufacturing, we look after all the production machinery. So that could be maintaining the equipment when it breaks down, making it more reliable. So we have asset intensity uptime. We want to be running as long as we can without breakdowns. So we've got quite a strong maintenance team. They typically work 12-hour shifts, so they work through the weekends and have lots of time off, but are expected to work weekends to fix the equipment. We also have people on day shifts who maintain it and make it more reliable. We have project teams who put new lines in when we decide to make a different product, or we decide our equipment is too old, so we have to replace it. That's typically £60 million a year through Nestlé. This factory is getting £6 million of investment this year. So there could be a role in projects, installing new kit. We have roles in electrical, so you could be electrical electrician, an electronics type of person, electromechanical, mechanical engineer, automation and controls engineers. That's people looking after computers which run the lines. So it's a vast opportunity for any engineering apprentice that comes in. At the moment, I've got 4 apprentices, and what they do is they spend 6 months at a time going through each department. So at the moment, I've got one person who's now gone on to frontline maintenance, so he's gone on to shift. Somebody else who's with the mechanical team. We've got an industrial services team where once the 2 younger apprentices come back from college, one will be going into industrial services, the other one into automation and controls, and then they will rotate. And then usually in year 4, you have a good indication of where you want to go, whether you want to be a mechanical engineer. You may like fixing your motorbikes and stripping things down, or you may have done electronics at school, or you may like the computer side of it, which is automation and controls. So vast opportunities. It is very rewarding career. I've been doing this job for 30 odd years plus, and every day I come in, there's something different, and I learn something every single day, and I'm still learning, and it's very rewarding. We give lots of support, so there's lots of mentoring. We've got some very experienced engineers on this site and around the Nestlé sites, and they're always very keen on learning and teaching new people. We give support to do extra learning outside of going to college, and the type of people we're looking for really are, people with hands-on ability. It is a hands-on role. Problem solving skills, looking outside the box as engineers, how to make things faster and better and safer and cheaper. So it's a very rewarding career, and like I said, I came through the apprenticeship scheme and I really recommend it. So that's really a snapshot of the engineering side for me.
I think really, again, the other thing I would say, the last thing I would say is that if you're thinking about applying for any one of the schemes, we realise that you might be a bit nervous. We realise that it's quite daunting, and to turn up to a full day assessment centre with Nestlé, we get people that come onto the calls and they're very, very nervous. But I've been doing it now for 5 or 6 years, and every single time I speak to a graduate and apprentice, regardless of function, and I ask them, what was your experience like when you applied for Nestlé? They all say that they felt very welcome. They felt very relaxed within 10-15 minutes of the assessment centre, and we'd go out of our way to make you feel that way because we want you to perform at your best. Me and Mariana have done some assessment centres very, very recently, and if you come in and you're relaxed and you feel part of the organisation even in the first few minutes, it really helps us to get the best out of you. So please don't be nervous. Please get your applications in, and I'm absolutely certain you won't look back. You'll be in the business 5 or 6 or 7 years later, and you'll be talking to the next batch when they apply. So yeah, any questions, and don't be nervous. Over to you, Abby. You're on mute, Abby.
I am on mute. I think I'm pretty good at that by now, but no. Thank you, Marie. That actually leads on to one of the questions, which is, what is a common mistake that candidates make during either the application process or an interview, for example, that you potentially found?
I'm happy to go first. So that's a really good question, and some of our interview questions, if you get through to assessment centre, some of our interview questions are scripted, very business-like. We might ask a question that says, in your in your career, what's been the biggest strength that you've been able to demonstrate, right? And you might be thinking, well, I don't have a business career, right? So I can't really answer that question. We're quite happy to hear examples from what you did at school or what you did when you did Duke of Edinburgh Awards. Even if you've got a part-time job, or you coach local football, or you get involved with school sports, think about the question. And if you don't have any industrial experience, think about, how do I answer that question? Give the assessors what they're looking for in terms of an example, right, without having that experience. And that's what I would say is the biggest gift that I can give to you guys when you're thinking about applying and going through that assessment centre. Dylan, you were going to add.
I was going to say something very, very similar, Murray. You know, it's about the examples. You know, really, you know, they can be quite scripted. These sometimes we have to ensure fairness for all candidates. But you know, just keep in the back of your mind, where have I demonstrated this before? Where have I done it? It could be anything. It doesn't have to be in a career. It can be, like Murray said, in the school, a club. It can be a part-time job, which are quite good examples. But like, try and link it back to where you have applied that before in a real life example. And I was just going to give another one as well, where, you know, we really look for engagement in our candidates. We really want to see people sort of involved, understanding the questions, they want to be here, you know, showing that kind of real passion for industry and the company. So we look for that engagement to really shine through from our candidates as well.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, I can echo that in terms of just start saying yes to things. I think a lot of the times you hold yourself back because you're either scared you're going to make a mistake or just fearful that you're going to be judged. But actually, until you try things, you never know what you're capable of. And a lot of the times you're more capable than you give yourself credit for. And even if you try something and you don't like it, you've learned something about yourself, and there's always something that you can take away. And it's these little things that you can build into your application process, so it's more well-rounded. It's not just about the past jobs that you've had, but like they've mentioned, whether something you've done in the community, project work, whether it's sports, any of your hobbies. These are how you can demonstrate that passion and what interests you and motivates you. And that's what I've kind of learned as well through my experience. We have another question. I guess this one is for either Gavin or Dylan. As an apprentice, as you started out, what was your favourite part of being an apprentice? What are you most proud of, I guess?
Yeah, for myself, what I liked the best about apprenticeship is I was learning the theory at college, and when you're doing that, you think some of this doesn't make sense. But when I was back to the workplace, I could relate some of that theory to what we were actually doing practically. So things like motor theory and testing motors, when you actually got a motor broken down on the line, you could go, what they were talking about at college, I can now relate to a practical thing and get the line back running. And it's getting those two to match up, and you can actually work through problems much better, and that is really rewarding for me.
Something from my side then, there's so many things that I really enjoyed as being an apprentice, from the opportunities from sort of coaching and development. So, you know, attending a negotiation course in Switzerland was an opportunity that I took. So at our head office, which was a good time and really memorable. And I got to meet, you know, procurement managers who sit in our Malaysian hub, our Panama hub, and our Switzerland hub. So it was really good to kind of be there as an apprentice and get that opportunity. And I think in terms of what I was most proud of, when I finished my final year as an apprentice, I had hit over 2 million Swiss franc cost savings for the business. So in procurement, one of our tasks is to save money for the business, and to really have to see the value that you've added in terms of a financial saving, and know that you are still only an apprentice, you're still learning, but still have added that value. It's a really good feeling to have.
Perfect, thank you. Keep getting mute. Got another question. So how are apprentices supported to adjust with shift work? Because obviously going through school and education, that's not something that young people are familiar with. So how is that support given?
Okay, I'm happy to start that one, and I'm sure Gavin can add to that. Again, it's another good question. So for manufacturing, we bring people into the organisation on days. You would do probably. We aim to have at least the first 12 months being on days to make sure that we are preparing you well, and you've got the knowledge of the site and you've got the knowledge of the process before you're put on shift. There's that regular touch point that both me and Mariana and Gavin and Dylan have talked about, in terms of that we come to you regularly, we find out how you're doing. Abby, can you just mute a little bit, please?
Oh, yes.
I've got a bit of an echo, I think. Yeah, we reach out to you on a regular basis to make sure that you're thriving in whichever environment that you're working in. If you are struggling, then we can offer you help and support. If you're applying for either a manufacturing or an engineering graduate scheme, then they are factory based. But they're great environments to learn in. You're with a great big group of people. There's a lot of camaraderie. People really want to help and support you to grow. So you get every bit of support that you need. And when you're ready, you'll move on to shift, and we'll continue to support you there. We've got some fantastic people across the shifts, both in manufacturing and engineering. So yes, you're supported all the way. But for manufacturing, certainly you'll spend the first 12 months with us on days whilst we build your behaviours and build your skill level. Do you want to add to that, Gavin?
Yeah, typically we wouldn't put you on shift until probably year 3 at least. Whilst you're on shift, there is time to do your logbooks and doing some of the face tests you need to do for college. So we do allow you have time out of the shift to do some support of your theory and stuff you do at college. And also the college is typically a block release, so you may have a complete 2 weeks off to do your block release. If you needed to do a day release, we would allow you to have time off either side of that day, so you wouldn't have to do, say, a night shift. You'd have the next day off, so there's always support.
Perfect, thank you. And then the other one is, as an apprentice, do you have the same development opportunities as other employees, or are you a step behind?
I'll kick this off. So I think probably everyone on this call could probably say you get equal opportunities to everyone. I mean, we've all started on apprenticeship schemes. So I started on the commercial apprenticeship 8 years ago now, and I've been at Nestlé ever since. And it's, in fact, I think it sort of accelerates your career in some respects, because you've seen so many aspects of the business. You've been in a lot of roles in a shorter space of time, and then when you come off scheme and you kind of decide in your career, you're actually further ahead than someone that just joins the business from external. So I'd say definitely we're one step ahead if you come on an apprenticeship, but then also the development opportunities outside the scheme you get a lot sooner than everyone else. So like Dylan shared around negotiation, we also do a lot of academy days where we talk about, you know, presenting and how to present in large forums. How do we use Excel? How do we do negotiation? We do a lot of training courses on the functions themselves. So we have a program called Farm to Fork for supply chain. So literally learning the end-to-end process of supply chain. And so those courses and that kind of value you get on personal development early on in your career means that you're actually, there's nothing stopping you just because you've joined on an apprenticeship.
And I would completely support that. And one of the other things that I would just build on is one of the things I love about Nestlé is that clearly we do have hierarchy. We have senior leaders within the business, and we have apprentices and operators in the business as well. But everybody is able to communicate in a very flat way across those functions, and you're definitely not disadvantaged because you're an apprentice. You're equally important than anybody else in the organisation. And I'm sure that I will speak on behalf of everybody on the call that says that. And we want you to be coming in, and we want you to be creative. We want you to suggest new ideas and new ways of working. That's why we spend so much time and effort to make sure we recruit the right people.
Perfect, thank you. I know I definitely felt valued from day one when I joined as an apprentice, so I can echo that. And actually, looking back, I can't believe how far I've come in such a short period of time. So I definitely believe that you're not a step back. If anything, you're a step ahead in that you've got people there to support you and build those skills and help you kind of figure out what your niche is and what you're passionate about. And I think that encouragement from others really inspires you to keep going and see how far you can go as well, which is really nice. So I have a final question. I guess all of you could answer this one. So based on your kind of extensive career so far, what advice have you been given that you've carried with you?
I can do this one first. For me, keep learning, keep asking questions, and they may be the most stupid question, but everybody else in the class or everybody else doing the apprenticeship is thinking the same question. And even if it's a silly question, you will get something out of answering those questions. And I'm the engineering manager now, and I was on a course last Friday, and I sat in front of 20 in my team, and all of them wanted to ask this question, so I did it. And it wasn't a silly question, but everybody else was holding back. So I said, okay, I'll ask the question. And we had an hour's debate on that, and we learned from that. So it's always just continuing your career, continue learning, and it's just keep progressing. And that, if you look at my career, that's what I've done. So that's one of my recommendations.
And I would add that within Nestlé, we're all judged in two different areas of the business. We're all judged on our results, and Dylan talked about a 2 million Swiss franc savings earlier on, and Gavin has talked about cost saving projects as well. But we're also judged on our behaviours, right? So when you come into an organisation like Nestlé, right, be yourself, right? We want you to be enthusiastic. Well, clearly we want you to be enthusiastic as you come through the assessment centre, but we want you to go into the business and be enthusiastic. We want you to challenge. We want you to have those creative ideas. We want you to put your hand up and go, actually, do you know, I've done something that I'm really proud of. Can I share it with some leaders across the team? Or actually, I've done something that I'm not really proud of, right? How can you help and support me to behave in a different way in the future? And behaviours are equally as important as the results within this organisation. So be enthusiastic, right? Work with others, work across barriers, across functions, across levels within the business, and make sure that you're participating in everything that you possibly can.
That's good advice. From my point of view, the two things that stick with me, and they link together. The first one is kind of don't be afraid to make mistakes. Everyone does it, and if you're too afraid of taking that risk of making a mistake, you do restrict yourself. Obviously, don't go out of your way to make a mistake, but if that happens, it happens. People make mistakes. The directors, the senior leadership team, everyone gets to where they are by making those mistakes. But the second piece of advice, and it links to what you were saying, Marie, about those the mistakes. When you do make a mistake, open up to it, learn from it, take it as an opportunity, because no one's going to judge you on that. It's the behaviour of how you go about rectifying that mistake and problem solving it and learning from it that people really sort of admire in the company. So then sort of the two bits that stuck with me.
I'd just probably add to that and kind of round it all off is throughout my apprenticeship, a lot of my line managers said to me, have courage. And that can be in any way, shape or form. That could be speaking up when you've made a mistake. It could be sharing ideas, looking at improvement processes, things like that. But just have some confidence in yourself that what you're bringing to the table is adding value, whatever it might be. So I think definitely courage would be the way I'd sort of summarise what everyone else has said.
Perfect, thank you. They were all great advice. So what I'll do is, we do have obviously these opportunities live now, so you can apply. So we've got, like I said, supply chain, engineering and manufacturing. You can find out all about the schemes on our website, which is www.nestleacademy.co.uk. So if you have a look on there, you can also apply. Once you've made that decision, you can find out what locations we have available as well. You'll need 5 GCSEs, including maths and English language at grades 9 to 4. But yeah, if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out even afterwards. You can find us on LinkedIn, or you can drop us an email in the contact us on our website as well. But yeah, thank you all for joining. Thank you, Murray, Gavin, Mariana and Dylan, for talking about the world of your functions and your experiences as well. I'm sure it's been really insightful and helpful for everyone listening. So thank you again, and I hope you'll have a nice evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you and good luck.
Bye.